Uh, so let me begin by asking, could you tell us a little bit about your other movies first, and then the results from social media? How did they react overall before we get into what happened to this movie?
Yeah, sure. So the first movie I did was Killing Europe, and this is where I first started out. And I wasn't even a filmmaker. I went back to Denmark to kind of like see what the heck was going on, and I brought my camcorder, and before you knew it, I was all over Europe. So yeah, I mean, initially the plan was that there was going to be the first screening in Denmark, and we tried to secure a couple of venues, but none of the venues wanted to do it because they were afraid of mainly Antifa, actually, not so much the like extremist Muslims. They were actually more afraid of Antifa, so that tells you something. But then, of course, we ended up trying to do a screening in Ottawa, Canada, because we figured, of all places, that's probably the the most less likely place anything would happen. But then, obviously, the leftist, there were some politicians and some so-called human rights lawyer. Everybody got involved. They got that banned, and they took it all the way through the court system. And the court system said that yeah, they're allowed to ban your movie. So I mean, but it is Trudeau's Canada, so I guess it shouldn't really surprise anybody. But then here comes the social media. So Breitbart, they do a article about how Amazon all of a sudden banned my movie, and then after they banned Killing Europe, then Breitbart linked to a version of Killing Europe that was still available on YouTube, and then lo and behold, I think it was same day or the day after, YouTube bans it on YouTube. So Killing Yours was banned on both of them. And it has to be said that the only place where it wasn't banned was actually on One American News, because One American News actually aired Killing Europe. So that's officially the only place it hasn't been banned at this point.
And there was nothing. I mean, I saw both of them.
Yeah.
There was no real violence. Nothing that would even come close to rating at a rated R that I could see. And the ban is over telling. I mean,
Hate
you
speech.
free speech. It's
Yeah.
they're over. You're telling the truth about freedom of speech, and that is a serious concern. I
Well,
cannot think of anything in those movies that can actually be considered controversial, because all you're
well, well, I mean, it is controversial in the sense that it's bringing about facts that some people don't want to hear. But the thing is, you're right. I mean, it's not like, I mean, the thing is that what's being brought to the forefront, and what's to take note of is that in the Canadian court, one of the main the lawyer representing the library and all these left wingers, the thing that he kept going over and over and showing in court was actually the testimony of some of the rape survivors from the Rotherham grooming gangs over in England, if you remember that case. So the lawyer or the lawyers in the Canadian courts were using their testimony as reason why this film should be allowed to be banned and why it's hate speech. So when you think about that for a second, you're basically saying that these women talking about what happened to them at the hands of these Muslim rape gangs, that's racism all of a sudden. They're just stating what happened to them. So, they were first victimized by these rape gangs, but then now the Canadian system, and then afterwards also Amazon and YouTube, they're basically saying that these women talking about what happened to them, it's now hate speech. I mean, think about that for a second, and think about for the fact that I guess it shouldn't surprise you that this stuff gets banned in Europe and ultimately Canada. But the fact that these, and I make this point over when we start talking about killing free speech, is that these tech companies, they're now implementing the same type of censorship that's being implemented in Europe at the hands of the EU. That's now being applied to American citizens. I think it's really unique, the fact that in history, the ones who are always implementing censorship were governments, right? That was always the ones who were implementing censorship. But here in America, the ones who are implementing the censorship is actually private companies. And as long as Donald Trump is in office, it's the U.S. government who are actually trying to 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 prevent this censorship. But I mean, we all know that if the Democrats get in office, I think you can really kiss the First Amendment goodbye, because, I showed in Killing Free Speech too, when we started talking about that the ones who are really behind this is actually, George Soros and the Democratic Party. But,
I, this is the ugly truth. I mean, the fact that governments are not doing the censoring, you've nailed it. That it is the big tech companies, and they fear they fear the average person knowing the truth, because you present. I mean, if anybody gets a chance to watch your videos, it's extremely unbiased. You go to get both sides points of views. You give everybody an opportunity to speak. So I'm kind of floored. I don't understand the reasoning, except for their what we would call politically incorrect facts. It kind of blows my mind. I can't see the purpose behind it. Um,
well, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, obviously the purpose is because there are certain elements in our society who doesn't want certain facts to come out. I mean, that's the problem is that I feel like the left, when they debate and their arguments are based on feelings and notions and how things should be. And then when you bring certain facts to the table that contradicts what their idea of what the world should be, then all of a sudden, then you're a racist. And actually in Canada, I came across this term now, they call it hate facts. A hate fact is basically when you discuss facts that might make a population group or a certain entity look less favorable because of the facts. Let's say you bring statistics, crime statistics, right? That show that a certain population group or anything are greatly overrepresented in certain crimes over others. Even though it's a fact, it's a reality, then you're racist for bringing it. You know what I'm saying? It's like they want to, I mean, it's very Orwellian when you think about it. It's like,
yes.
what's his name? Winston in the character in 1984, his job is to sit there and erase facts that the party doesn't like anymore. That's his job in the book. And this is exactly what the left is doing. They're basically saying these facts are not allowed. So we're going to erase them. I mean, it's kind of like, back when Stalin, when he got rid of Trotsky and everybody else he didn't like, all of a sudden they disappeared from the pictures too. I mean,
It's very true, and
it's
it's
really,
almost like we have our own little communist group here, the big tech companies, and
yeah, communist group that are making a lot of money though.
oh, definitely. Let's leave out in many way I would say in many way they're commies, but they like cash, so it
Yes.
kind of negates
Well,
the economic plan.
you have to remember if you want to look at it like that. I mean, in North Korea, in China, in former Soviet or in Soviet Union back in the day, yes, they were communists. Everybody was supposed to be equal, but we all know that the inner party, they had a little bit more benefits there, right? And I'm sure that the inner party of the Communist Party in China, they're the ones who are just becoming filthy rich at the expense of 95% of the population they're using as slave labor, right? I
Yes.
mean, it's still communism, but the inner party is still getting what they get. And that's kind of how I view the big tech companies. I mean, and I mean, Wall Street at the end of it. I mean, it goes beyond that. I mean, it's not just like mindless censorship because some left winger at a university doesn't like this movie. I mean, it's way bigger than that.
As much as it's so this particular movie that just got censored. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the movie and how you were notified of the censorship?
Yeah, sure. So, I was really surprised what happened with Killing Europe. I was surprised the response in Canada and the fact that these courts would actually uphold the censorship, right? I mean, but again, it's Trudeau, so I guess maybe I shouldn't really be surprised at the end of the day. But the fact that it happens here in America now, and what happened to my Killing Europe is just one little thing. I mean, we all know that big tech is going after anybody at this point. But I thought it was interesting that of all countries, United States, which I always saw as the freest country in the world and the last bastion of liberty, and it is. If we lose America, we're all done. But I made the movie Killing Free Speech, right? Part one and part two. And part one basically focuses on, you know, like Islamic entities like CARE. I also look at what's going, something you can relate to, what's going on in our schools, the indoctrination going on in public schools.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of it. And I also look at how Antifa fits into the equation, and ultimately the Democratic Party. I relate it to how it relates to Europe, what's going on in Europe. And so this movie, the part one, you know, I was going to post it on Amazon, and it was up for about a week, and then all of a sudden, Amazon tells me that it's been taken off. You can't, you know, you can't upload it again. And I I um I Breitbart writes an article about it, and then it has to be said that while Killing Free Speech was available, I had Killing Free Speech Part Two. It was in the process of being reviewed by Amazon to be published. It was in the final stage. And ironically, part two is about big tech censorship. And 4 hours or so after Breitbart comes out with the article on the banning of part one, I get a notification that the content of part two is offensive. And so they banned part two. So that happened yesterday, no, 2 days ago. This happened 2 days ago. So it's like part one and part two got banned, boom, boom. And it's just ironic because they're about big tech censorship and the censorship going on in this country. And what's interesting is that in part two, and I encourage people to go to killingfreespeech.com and check out these movies, and for God's sake, share them with people, because, you know, we all know that these movies are going to get buried by Google and everybody else if they don't get banned by whatever platform I put them on. But the point is that in part two, I talk about big tech censorship, which is not, I mean, everybody knows about this now, right? But one thing that I really focus on part two is the connection with the Democratic Party. And I had a screening set up with Border Patrol, U.S. Border Patrol, which is kind of unusual that U.S. Border Patrol would do something like this. I'm not aware of that they actually organize screening for their agents like that. But U.S. Border Patrol, they like my Killing Free Speech series, so they started up a screening in San Diego for their agents, and they invited ICE agents, they invited agents for all kinds of agencies. And Terrence Shig, who the Border Patrol union guy who set it up, he said they all loved the movie and all these things, and they wanted to like do more screenings in different states for Border Patrol agents. And then the media got a hold of it, and they of course went with the narrative, white nationalists, blah 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 blah.
Half of our Border Patrol are Hispanic down south.
Well, not only that, but I want to point out, and I pointed out in Killing Free Speech Part Two, that Terrence Shig, the agent who set it up, he's African American. You know, but long story short, right? So we figured, and I talked to Terrence Shig about this. We're like, you know what? We should get this movie to Capitol Hill. We think that at the end of the day, if Border Patrol agents found this important enough, you know, Capitol Hill members of Congress should see this movie as well. And one of my contacts in D.C. reached out to Congressman Gohmert's office. And unfortunately, they, you know, he told me that will probably be the Congress who would be most recipient or who would probably sponsor a screening. But unfortunately, they sent us an email back saying that because the Democrats control the theaters, I guess because the Democrats control the House, somehow Pelosi and they didn't have a say in who can actually screen at their theaters or something like that for Congress. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, but that's what the Gohmert's office said. And they said that obviously with Pelosi as speaker, you know, this is never going to happen. They're not going to allow it. And I was kind of like, that's interesting. They're not going to allow a movie about free speech to be screened on Capitol Hill. So I'm like, so the Democrats are basically implementing censorship on Capitol Hill to members of Congress. Think about that for a second, right? But I'm like, all right, we can't really just go off of what a Republican says. I mean, let's be fair here. So I went to New Jersey 9th District, which is Congressman Pascrell's, he's a Democrat. And I had a timing, and I had a meeting with his district leader, Ritzy Morales. And I went there and I basically showed them Senator Congressman Gohmert's email saying that the Democrats are not going to allow this. And I asked her flat out, and it's in the movie too because I brought a camera, a small camera, but I
Mm-hmm.
brought a camera to document this, right? And I basically asked her, read this email from this congressman. Is this true? Are the Democrats seriously censoring stuff on Capitol Hill that they don't like? And she sits there, she gives me lip service. Oh, I don't know. Oh no, I mean no, of course. And it's all in the film. She then says, well, you know what, and I tell her, if this is not true, then prove to me that this is not true. Set up a screening at Capitol Hill. And she's like, right, yeah. She said, I'm going to reach out to DC. We're going to set something up. Who do you want it screened for? I said, well, members of Congress. She's like, yep, we're going to reach out to DC. We're going to get back to you. It's all good. All right. Noted. She didn't know what's in the movie yet, in part one. So, obviously she saw the movie or she reached out to DC, or more importantly, she probably reached out to DC telling them, hey, this is what's going on. And then obviously they never got back to me. I emailed them several times, nothing. Of course, they didn't know that I actually documented everything with that little camera. So, so the point of the matter is that long story short, at least Congressman Pascrell's office proved to me that it is true. The Democrats are censoring on Capitol Hill. So, I mean, because what did DC tell them when they contacted them? What was DC's response? Because obviously, after they contacted DC or what have you not, they never got back to me. So, something was said. I want to know what was said. What did DC tell this congressman or this district leader? What was said? Why didn't this go any further? And why didn't they even get back to me? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm a U.S. citizen with a concern. Isn't this the job of a congressman to address these concerns? Especially when there is an accusation being leveled by a Republican congressman that the Democrats are implementing censorship. I mean, that's a pretty serious accusation, and the fact that they would just brush it off and just ignore me like that, something was said, and ultimately, I want to know what that was.
That is the overall problem we are addressing today. Unfortunately, it's like they have forgotten the First Amendment as a whole, much less most of the Constitution. It seems
Yeah.
it's frustrating. It is extremely frustrating. I wish
Well, I
there
mean,
was something. I live in Libland, New York, and you know, I can tell you that trying to contract my senator, uh, I often get hung up on before I even get to say my name or anything. So that's how they're treating their average constituent in New York State. That when you call, uh, you call the Senate and you try to get a hold of your senator, you might get. I mean, this is the Democratic senator that everybody knows. I'm just not saying his name right now, and he is the one. Chucky Schumer is what it is. Chucky Schumer decided. Chucky's the bit, the doll that goes around and kills people, and that's why I put that Chucky
yeah,
there. He's a man we can't trust, is what it comes down to. He's decided to. I mean, he's in a lot of ways a huge censor himself. He just doesn't like people to know things that are factual. He likes to, and I like your view of it. It is they are looking at things that are from emotion rather than from factual fact versus opinion. I just retired from teaching high school. And one of the things we talk about in ninth and 10th grade in social studies is fact versus opinion. How do you tell the difference and which has more value? Um, and I have the special ed kids and I'm teaching them the little tricks, look for the more, the less statements, things like that. But when we have people who are in a government role within this country who are refusing to allow freedom of speech and implementing censorship, they are violating their oath to the Constitution. So I think that is the thing we need to begin to challenge, if to get movies like yours out. I think your work is valuable. Um, I was really shocked when I watched the first one, and
Who's
then
killing Europe or?
yeah, the first one, Killing Europe, and then I saw there was the one. Yeah, I saw I saw all. I've seen the two. I didn't see it to see the third one yet, which is because I will definitely be going to see it. Um, and I'll tell you, the first two hit me so hard. I just can't sit there in shock that half of this was. I never imagined some of this stuff as plain as outright as you made it. And I want to say thank you because you did the one thing you did to me with these movies is you presented an unbiased point of view. You made sure that the other side, you went out of your way to make sure the other side, in fact, sometimes it was a little dangerous the way I looked at the way you did it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, especially in Killing Europe, I took some chances that I probably shouldn't have taken. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. It's extremely valuable. What you did, that getting that other point of view, if anything, that's probably why they censored you because you shared the truth and
Well,
you let them express it.
exactly. I mean, the thing is that, and people have to remember, and I'm sure when they see the movies, that, I'm not part of like no organization. I'm not part of no machinery. I'm just, your average guy. And certainly in Killing Europe, it's rough around the edges. And that's the thing. And I think that's what they don't like ultimately is that when regular people become active, at least on the conservative side, you know what I mean? Because
Yes.
I'm not gonna like sit here and lie and say I'm completely, neutral. No, I am conservative, but at the same time, I do believe in truth and facts. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And honestly, you know, it's not in me to lie because I don't think it's, I'm not even going to get into the whole moral aspect of it, but just think about it like this. I don't even think it's necessary because at the end of the day, at least for the time being, if you're conservative, most of the arguments you're going to bring are just facts. And when people, if they really sit down and look at the debate going on, you're going to see people on the more right spectrum or the conservative side. For the most time, they're just bringing facts, whereas people on the left they're bringing that emotional aspect, right? And
Yes.
and then somehow, you're not then a racist when when you bring these facts. But I want to bring it back to the Democratic Party. I want to bring it back to the Democratic Party. Hold on. What is it called? No, my kid just slipped me a note.
Oh, mine are grown at this point, thank God.
What's it called? I sorry,
that's
kids, man.
that's the
Kids.
good reality of our shutdown.
Yeah, right. What's it called? So where was I? I want to bring it back to the Democratic Party because at the end of the day, a lot of the debate right now that you see is that big tech censorship and it's real, and I think most of the people realize that. But I want to bring it back to the fact that the ones who ultimately are pushing it is the Democrats, and this is again where even if you're no matter where you stand politically, I think especially part one and part two, killing free speech, I think it's something every American should see because
Yes.
take it for what it is. I grew up in Denmark, so you know I kind of see myself not as an outsider, but I kind of view it with maybe different eyes, and this is what I see what's going on from my perspective as somebody who grew up in Denmark. Some people might think that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'll leave it up to them. But the point is that what I've seen is that through my research, doing this movie and interviewing people and talking and what have you not, is that the Democratic Party, they're really the ones who ultimately kickstarted this whole censorship. And Gateway Pundit, and I gotta give them credit, they gave me this document that came out that was leaked, a document by something called Media Matters, and David Brock, who's Hillary Clinton, he ran Hillary Clinton's campaign. I do remember, I think it was, and you know, he got together after Trump's election victory, and you know that put shock waves in deep state, right? And then he basically came up with a plan on how to prevent the 2020 election, basically. And a big part of that was, you know, taking away the tools that made Trump's campaign effective. In other words, the internet, right? Because we all know mainstream media, they're left, you know, so he basically went around them, right? And had a platform to talk directly to people without that mainstream media filter. And they basically came up with a plan how to take that tool away. And when you look at what's in that document, and I encourage people to like Google Media Matters David Brock, okay? It should show up somewhere. I'm sure a lot of sites have posted this document, so it's not like, I mean, it was leaked and it was spread everywhere, right? But I don't remember it making that many waves. But the point is, this document basically outlines everything we see going on today, you know, 3 years ago. I mean, think about it for a second. And when you look at, and I make this connection in the movie as well, that when you look at, if you go on the DNC's website and look at their policy on fake news and how to combat fake news, you know, a lot of the things that are in that document from 2016, that was, you know, George Soros and all these guys were in on it. I mean, tells you something, right? You compare that with their policy on fake news, you can kind of go, huh, these, you know, there's a big connection here. And then the Democrats pressuring to have conservatives taken off the internet for supposedly being hate speech or fake news or what have you not. I mean, it's the Democrats ultimately behind this. And I think the icing on the cake, so to speak, right, is the fact that, you know, not only do they want to censor the American people, because apparently we're too dumb to handle facts or handle what's fake or what's not fake, right? We need the Democrats to tell us what's fake and what's not fake. They are also censoring their own members of Congress. I mean, that's the ultimate, I think, slap in the face, right? I mean,
yes, that's actually happening. People don't realize that. That is.
It's like, I mean, they're censoring us, but they're also censoring on freaking in Congress. I mean, how much worse can it get? And that's where I want people to think about this. And I compare it to the Chinese style censorship and their social score credits. It's all in that movie where everything that's happening right now, just look at China. This is what's happening, right? And ultimately, I can't stress this enough. I personally think that we're just one election away from Chinese style democracy. Because if the Democrats take office in 2020, you know, if you look at everything that's going on, when Biden takes office, if he wins, I don't think he will. Honestly, I have faith in the American people. They will make the right choice. I mean, everybody's making this illusion. Oh, he's ahead in the polls, double digit.
He's not ahead in anything.
Before, right?
His ability to hide in the basement, he's ahead in.
I know, right? I mean, we've heard it. Wasn't that what they told us in 2016 too? Trump doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, that MSNBC lady, can't remember her name. She's gone awful.
Donna Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah. Rachel Maddow sat there saying, "Oh, it's not a matter of how Hillary's going to win. It's just a matter of how much." You know what I mean? They all. Yeah. So we heard this before, and now they're doing it again. They're just double downing on it. Now it's like, he might as well not even run. He might as well just pack his bag and go. Right? But you know, that's the illusion they want to put up to basically discourage conservative voters and Americans, right? But the point is that if Biden and the Democrats were to take control, all these things you see happening, they're gonna put in, you know, they're gonna executive orders, they're gonna do whatever to basically make sure that free speech is dead. I mean, and they're all gonna do it in the name of fake news, hate speech, combat prejudice and racism and all these things, right?
Yes.
Like that almost non-existent racism that they're beating. I mean, don't get me started on the whole Black Lives Matter thing. I mean, no, but the point is
yes.
that that's just part of their game. You know what I mean? The point is that, I mean, let's talk, again, we talk about facts and statistics. I think at this point, we can all agree what happened to George Floyd is terrible. It shouldn't have happened, and those police officers need to be held accountable. I don't think anybody's debating that. what I think is that this so-called institutionalized racism, systemic racism, all you got to do is look at the facts. I mean, last year, I think it was about 9 unarmed African Americans were killed by the police. And out of those, who knows how many of them were killed because they were reaching for the police officer's gun, or they're assaulting him, what have you not. I think that, you know, the George Floyd case was probably one or two cases so far this year where you can straight out say that the police were wrong and what they messed up. What they did was completely wrong. I mean, but that's one or two cases out of how many interactions with the police? I mean, and they make it sound like it only happens to African Americans. It happens to whites just as, well, actually twice as much, you know what I mean? But I mean, and I'm not going to get into the whole, well, there's more white people than black people. Well,
it's the statistics. Anybody who does their own research, here I'm saying, do your own research. Don't trust anybody else's.
Exactly.
Go and do your own.
But that's the point is that here's an example of how mainstream media and all these leftist groups hype this for political reasons. And they want to make sure that you're only seeing that narrative, that you don't see the other side. And the only way to see the other side is if you maybe go on Fox News, or if you do your own research. They don't want you to do your own research. They don't want you to watch movies like mine. They don't want you to see facts, because then you start thinking, right? And then
this is the just to throw this out there, this is what I call the cultic mentality. If you remember the cults from in the 70s, where you had things like the Moonies, the Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, one of the things these groups refuse to do is simply they really don't want you to think for yourself. And that's where when you get that thinking, we had a group called The Way back then. I had a friend get involved with that group. Her parents had to kidnap her out and put her through deprogramming in order to get her mind back to normal. And it's a group think mentality. If you listen just to prove your point as so accurate, listen to the news. You listen to NBC, they're going to give you a talking point. It's the exact same talking point you're going to hear on CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC. It's word for word the exact same talking points. And you don't see that. You really don't see that with people claiming to be the conservative point of view. They like to think for themselves, and they don't want anybody to tell them what to do. That's part of being an American. We don't do that unless you decide you're going to give in to the group think mentality.
And you know, and something I find interesting is speaking of NBC is that I saw this posting on it that, you know, let's say, I don't know when it was posted, but they like 2:00 in the afternoon, they post a thing about like brave protesters going out fighting for their civil rights and stuff like that. Then an hour later, they post that, oh, Trump is going to have a rally. He's going to endanger all of America. He's going to kill us all with the coronavirus. So within an hour, go out protesting in big, large gatherings is good. Then an hour later, oh, conservative gathering. Oh, that's bad. You're irresponsible. You're going to kill us all with coronavirus. I mean, they're so brazen. It's like they don't think that people can like see, hey, wait a minute, you just posted an hour ago, it's okay, and now it's not okay. I mean, it's like they really think we're idiots. They really do. I mean, that's the truth. Like stuff like that tells me that they really think we're idiots. And I'm sure they think we're idiots, because I think a lot of people on the left really think that the general population are stupid, are too emotional to handle facts, and they somehow have the intellectual and moral authority to decide what we should see and do. That's really the essence of leftist thought, right?
Yes.
That the individual is not responsible enough to take care of themselves. The state needs to do it for them, right? I mean, that mentality, you can see it everywhere in people's actions, how they talk and what they do and these things, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. That's why in Denmark, for instance, where I grew up, you know, we pay what, like 50, 60% in taxes, right? Yeah, we get free healthcare and free education, but at what price, right? And it sucks anyways. Not our education system, our hospitals suck anyways. Like, if you want to be on the waiting list for 12 months having cancer, then go ahead, go to Denmark, live in Denmark, right? But the point is that in Denmark, so the mentality is that we're not responsible enough to handle our money. The government's going to do it for us. It's as crazy as in they take out a chunk of our in the taxes is vacation money. It's called. And right now with the coronavirus, there's a big push to like give us our vacation money because usually around I think it's June or July, your vacation money is released so you can go on vacation. But think about that for a second.
Could have saved that, and it could have been in your pocket. Oh
Well,
my
the point
God!
is
Yeah.
that the point is that in Denmark, the government feels it's necessary to take additional taxes. That's your vacation money, and then they're going to give it to you when your vacation comes up, so you can go spend some money. Think about it. As a citizen, I think I'm responsible enough to like handle that money. And if I want to go on vacation, I'll save up for it myself. I don't need the government to save it up for me. But think about that. That little example tells you everything about this mentality. It's about control because at the end of the day, we're too dumb, too emotional to handle anything. And that's what the Democrats, think about it. Like if you saw the Democratic primaries and certainly also in 2016, what country did the Democrats love to bring up? That's the example.
Denmark.
Denmark, right? Denmark. They always talk about Denmark. Well, here's the thing. I'm from Denmark. There's a reason why I don't want to be there. And when people, and this is what gets me, people are shocked when they find out that, oh, you're conservative? You voting for Republicans? How can you? You're from Denmark, literally every time. You're from Denmark. How can you? And my answer is pretty simple. I'm like, well, see, I like freedom. And if I wanted to live under the same conditions in Denmark that they have in Denmark, why the heck would I move over here in the first place?
You might go to Sweden if you want to live over pretty much the same conditions.
Yeah, right. And my point is that when people then get flabbergasted by that idea, I said, listen, why would I vote for a political party that's going to implement the same system that I just left? That kind of like is like if you come from South America, that why are you going to vote for the party that's going to implement the same type of systems that you just left? You know what I'm saying? And this is what gets me too. And I think this is an important point. All these Democrats and liberals who are fleeing California and some of these failed states and cities, they come to Texas, they come to Arizona, they come to these places. And now the Democrats are like, oh, more, we might be able to flip Texas and all this stuff. And my message to those Democrats are, if you move from a Democratic state, because it sucks. LA, there's no opportunities, it's too expensive, you're overtaxed. You're fleeing New York, it's too expensive, it's overtaxed, it's failed. And you come to these Republican states, why the heck are you going to vote for a party that's going to implement the same things that you just left? It makes no sense to me.
Exactly.
It's like this thing failed, then you're going to come to this place and you're going to make that fail too?
And that is what my friends in Texas are talking about, how they're getting the runaway Californians and they're trying to destroy Texas.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Why? You're voting against your own interest here. If you're fleeing California and New York because there's no opportunity, there's no businesses, you're overtaxed, you can't afford a house, then why the heck are you going to go to a place where they have it and you go, oh, this place has opportunities that they don't have over there, but I'm going to vote for the political party that's going to make it the same here. How does that make any sense? That's
it.
How does it make sense?
I unfortunately am running out of time, but
Sure.
I want to say this is really powerful. I've enjoyed my time with you. I'm definitely going to have you back again. I'm guessing you're probably going to do another movie. You probably got plans for another movie, but
I hope so.
all I can say is I'm impressed with your work. So
Thank you.
Please don't stop what you're doing. You provide a fair, unbiased point of view. When I watch your films, I've just been shocked at how you go straight to, like I said earlier, you go straight to the horse's mouth in some ways and you get the truth from them rather than waiting and taking an opinion, and that is valuable. Unfortunately, our journalists today, most of them don't have the guts to do that job. So what you're doing is valuable. Unfortunately, I'm running down in time, and I have to say thank you for joining us.
No problem.
Tell people again where they can watch your video.
Okay, so if you go to killingfreespeech.com, there's links for rentals. There's there's a link where you can actually buy them on DVDs and so forth. And there's all kinds of information on that website. So yeah, killingfreespeech.com. That's where you can go grab it until they ban that site too.
Oh boy. Well, God bless, and we'll have to have you back. See you soon.
All right, thanks.